For students who identify as LGBTQ+, learning in school about sexual health-related issues that concern them can be nearly impossible to find. That is largely due to the fact that no state explicitly mandates LGBTQ inclusive sex education curriculum. But of the fewer than 7% of LGBTQ students who did receive an inclusive education, research shows they were significantly less likely to miss class and more likely to have higher GPAs. We spoke with GLSEN education manager Becca about other benefits of teaching students about LGBTQ-related issues. What are schools around the country currently teaching students about LGBTQ+ related issues in their sex education classes?
So the reality is most students are not being taught information about LGBTQ people, history, and events in schools, and that includes sex education. GLSEN research actually found that less than 7% of LGBTQ-identified middle and high school students were being taught inclusive sex education in schools. This curriculum itself really varies from state to state and even within districts. We also know that the individual educators in the classroom play a large role in the inclusivity of the curriculum as it gets to the students. And that's why it's so important to advocate for inclusive policies around sex education at the state level, and also to ensure that educators have the professional development that they need.
And so what specifically do you believe should be included in national curriculum for high school and middle school age students?
So students need accurate and inclusive education around sex education in order to make healthy decisions about their lives. A foundation for LGBTQ inclusive sex education at the middle and high school level includes talking about bodies in a way that's not binary or just boy, girl, making sure that you're not assigning a gender identity to students that may not identify that way, and also just being able to talk about a variety of relationship structures and sexual orientations. We also encourage sex educators at the middle and high school level to check in with their students, especially their out LGBTQ students, about what they need and what's missing from the curriculum.
And how can including this LGBTQ+ related material in school curriculum impact not only students who identify on that spectrum, but also those students who don't?
Inclusive curriculum is essential for all students. It's not just for LGBTQ identified people or people in that community. It's really helpful because all young people get a chance to learn about a diverse group of people. They learn empathy and respect for all.
And at what age do you think schools should start including this LGBTQ+ representation in their curriculums? Where should it begin?
So as an intentionally K-12 organization, GLSEN understands that these conversations need to begin in elementary school. I was an elementary school teacher for 10 years before coming to work for GLSEN, and I've had these conversations about LGBTQ identity and families myself with children as young as kindergarten. These conversations around sexual health education at this age really focus on making healthy decisions and respecting boundaries and building healthy friendships.
And what would you then say to parents who argue that they don't want their kids learning about the LGBTQ community at school?
You know, inclusive curriculum really relies on the reality that many young people are coming from LGBTQ-headed families, that they're being taught by LGBTQ-identified educators, and that they are increasingly identifying as LGBTQ themselves. This kind of visible curriculum is really essential because all students deserve to see themselves in their curriculum. And that's particularly true about a curriculum that's teaching young people how to minimize their risks, how to stay healthy, how to respect boundaries, and how to connect with other people. And LGBTQ people need to be able to have that curriculum in schools.
And so, Becca, for parents who do live in school districts where this inclusive sex education is not taught, what sorts of conversations should they be having with their kids at home?
So parents and family members are essential educators for their children. It's really important that they support these conversations whether they're happening in school or not. And one way that they can do that is by making sure that they're not reinforcing gender stereotypes for their young people, that they're having open-ended questions. They're not enforcing the idea that boys have to be strong and like blue and that girls have to be sweet and like pink. Just making sure that their children can ask those questions for themselves and can decide for themselves who they are, what they like, what they're interested in, how they want to be addressed, and even when and how they get hugs or are touched, and those kinds of conversations around their bodies.
Absolutely. Issues of consent should start early, those conversations for sure. Becca, Mui, we thank you so much for your insight and sharing it with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Coming up on CBSN Originals, shame-based sex education has long been used to discourage young adults from having sex. Ahead, why one pastor says he disagrees with that approach and what he's doing to change it. Stay with us.